So it's not only a new year, but it's a new moon today. So happy new year and happy new moon, both auspicious times to let go of the old and bring in the new and create something new. So tonight I really want to address the divisiveness that's happening in the world and how we can use this particular time to cultivate interdependence and co-create. Hi, sweetheart. I see you. Yes. Welcome. Um, let me just let anybody else in here, and then let's just start out with a little meditation and invocation. So if you would just take a moment with me to close your eyes and maybe get a straight spine and just relax into your own weight, feeling your feet on the floor. And let's just take a few breaths together as a community. Letting whatever it took you to get here, let it go. We're just here now. And let's do a little check-in with our body. Do we feel our connection to the earth? And can we feel our body? This amazing body that life lives through. Can we actually allow ourselves to go into the body and feel the inner world? We get so focused on the outer world, we don't spend a lot of time. I'm sure many of you have practices that take you in the inner world, but we don't take a lot of time through our day to actually be in the inner world and to feel what's going on. So just take a moment to see what's moving, what's alive in you. And noticing places that you really feel alive, maybe your fingers and your toes, your hands. And then there's other areas where we feel tension, stress, or numbness. And it's good to know where the numbness is, because that's not nothing. That's something that's actually protecting, supporting us. So we just do a scan through the body and notice how spacious we feel inside. How much, does it feel cramped or does it feel really open and spacious? And this is my body. And then I have emotions that come up, and they come up in my body too. And of course, many of you know I distinguish feelings from of the mind to emotions from of the body. We often collapse the two. So just notice, maybe there's some excitement, maybe there's some fear, maybe there's some joy and compassion, maybe there's a little anger, shame, guilt, sadness, grief. Maybe there's no emotion that you can feel, and maybe there's two or three of them that are happening all at the same time. So we just welcome our emotions and honor them. Emotions are the fabric of our relationships. When I can feel your emotions and you can feel mine, we're more deeply interconnected and more related. And then I notice the mind. Is it still? Is it busy? Is it a helicopter mind flying above our head? Is it running the show? Or is it just thoughts and images passing by that we don't hold on to or grasp? And then we look and see, well, are these in alignment? Are my thoughts and my feelings, my emotions, in alignment with my physical sensation? Or are they out of alignment? So often they are. We think one thing, we say another, we feel another. We have body movements that don't correspond with what we're saying. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about congruence. And notice how related we feel to our body. Do we actually, feel, wow, I've got a body? Or do we have, oh, my body, it hurts. I don't like it. It's too big, it's too small, it's too wide, it's too narrow. I'm just noticing all of that. I'm noticing how we feel being in a community from people all around the world, coming together on this new moon, in this new year. And we honor our spirit guides. We honor the 7 directions, all our relationships, all the creatures, the 2-leggeds, the 4-leggeds, the creepers, the crawlers, the winged ones, the finned ones. And maybe we can take a second to honor just the interconnectedness with all of life. And notice if you actually feel interconnected to life, or do you feel separate, alone? It's just information we're just looking to see. And so we ask Spirit to guide us tonight. The theme is really about reclaiming our interdependency with each other, with life. So much separation, so much anger and divisiveness and alienation. But we came to this call, maybe we saw a possibility of, how can I be more connected with the world, with the people that disagree with me and have different opinions? How can we find a common unity in our community and without our community? And so we hand that over to Spirit and welcome yourself here and welcome everyone else here. And just as you're ready, bring yourself back. And we'll let in the people who weren't here. And still more people coming here. Okay. So, hi everybody. It's so good to be with you. How many people are here for the first time ever on one of these calls? And just, yay, welcome Diane, welcome Tara, welcome Diana, and Geraldine, and Diana O, and who else here? And yeah, wonderful. It's so good to have you here. So, as I said in the invocation, we really want to look tonight, and I don't have any big agenda. I have a few things I'd like to talk about, but I have a real concern about the state of the world, and I have a suspicion that probably you might also, or you wouldn't be on this call. I've never in my 76 years, felt so much antagonism towards other people and so much separation and so much blame and so much hate and vitriol. And, it's there's a huge cost. We have a lot of major issues that are happening here: climate change, uh, political unrest, wars, and COVID, and all of these different areas that we're divided over. So how can we find some common sense of unity and find a way to hold all of that? And I suspect many of you are feeling a great deal of stress and anxiety over the. I have 2 screens here, so I'm trying to see you all here. um, so how do we find some place of balance? And the metaphor that I used in the title tonight, the third side, comes from, some of you may know William Ury. He's, quite a well-known um, mediator global on the global scale with countries and presidents of countries, and wrote a book called Getting to Yes. And one of the things he often talks about is this, third side, which we'll talk about, more, but we tend to look at things in a way that's always dualistic, or often dualistic. Like, there's the Democrats, oh, there's the Republicans, there's the, the labor and management, or there's the, um, you name it. There's the climate deniers and the climate people who believe there's climate change, and there's people who believe there's COVID, and there's people who are saying maybe there's COVID, but they're going about it the wrong way, and that, there's all these ways that we're divided. And so I thought this new moon and this new year would be a really good time to talk about that, and look and see, well, how do we find some common ground here? So I'd like us to start with looking individually, actually. How do we feel divided in our life? And those of you who've been with me know I'm very um, into interaction. So I like to hear from you. And so, I want to start with just asking a question that comes to me, is like, where are you divided in yourself? Where do you feel an inner conflict within yourself? So I'd love it if a couple people would just, you can raise your hand by going down to the more, no, to the reactions area, and just click on raise your hand if you want to say something. And let's hear some voices here and begin to feel each other a little bit. You know, I uh, I often talk about that in we think of ourselves as separate. We live inside of what's the classic physics, the Newtonian Cartesian sense that if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist, and we're all objects in a world of objects. And there's such a shift that's happening and available, which I wrote about in the last newsletter, um, to move to a quantum sense of being connected, where, yes, you're out there in Alaska or Australia or Maryland or wherever you are, and there's that distance. But from a quantum perspective, that's a point there. And some of you probably pay a little attention to quantum physics. Until something is observed, it's both a wave and a particle. So we look at each other and, oh, there's a particle out there. There's a Tara particle, and there's a Patrice particle, and an Andrea particle. But from a completely different sense, from a sense of being energy, which we are, energy moves in waves, waves move in patterns. We are energy. And when you look at that sense of that, then you actually are showing up in my nervous system here, over here, and I'm showing up in your nervous system as a wave of energy. And the more present I can be with you, and the more present you can be with me, the more you can feel me and I can feel you, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. And that's a key aspect, I think, of something that we need to look at when we're connecting, when we're sharing. Oftentimes, I notice myself that when I'm meeting someone for the first time, I leave my body. I go out to meet them, but I leave me. Can I stay in me and be with you? And this is a practice that I highly recommend that you do, is to pay attention to the inner body when you're meeting somebody new or you're saying hello to somebody, and notice, oh, am I in my body? Can I feel them in my body? So just a little way to start on that. So Diana, please unmute yourself and let's chat and see what you have to say here.
I'm feeling divided both from my body and from years of activism.
Mhm.
And about an hour ago, I got a message that it's very cold in St. Louis tonight, and winter outreach is going out on the streets to help those of our brothers and sisters who are not housed. And and I cannot drive at night anymore, and and I cannot go and be of assistance. And it feels like a conflict in me that that it's not, knowing that it's not safe for me to drive, and some of these men and women will want to be taken or might be taken to shelters. And I've done it for years, and my husband and I were just talking about the frustration and the sadness and the conflict of not being able to do that. And are we being selfish? Are we watching out for us more than for our dear neighbor? And it's a conflict of limited abilities as we age. And my husband is sitting here listening to you, and he said, "Oh, Michael's 76, so am I."
Good, good. Oh, it's so precious. Exactly this is so perfect what you're saying. So, yeah, it looks like there's people that are helping out at the streets, and I'm at home. Am I being selfish? No. Now, listen, if you listen to what I said about particles and waves, you can connect with those people. You can go into meditation, into prayer. Tell me 10 ways that you can connect with those people out there on the streets.
Thank you. I can connect by taking granola bars and hats and mittens tomorrow. I can connect in prayer. I can connect by sending energy to them. Thanks for this reminder. I can just remember that we are energy together. They are literally my brothers and sisters. And my grandmother used to say, "There but the grace of God go I." And we're all connected there.
You want to know another way you can connect with them, Diana?
Please.
Let go of the guilt. That's a gift because that divides us. When we carry that guilt, it's a way that keeps us separate.
Oh.
So all the ways you said, but also, you know, when we're working, doing our inner work, this is something people who work with me know I say all the time. You know, we want to fix out there, but the work that we do here, sorry, I got to let people in here. The work that we do on the inner world is going to support them on the outer world because we're already all interconnected. And so when we carry things like guilt and shame, it kind of lets us off the hook for doing the real work, which is the inner, you know, it's kind of a bypass, a type of spiritual bypass. So when you have that guilt and shame, yippee, something to work on. I have my work cut out. I can go, you know, honor that and look beneath the guilt and shame. And often what you'll find is that there's trauma underneath there, you know. And so then we honor that trauma and we go into the body and we make friends with it. We meet it, we embrace it, we, you know, witness it. And so that's the healing path of that. So, but it's so perfect what you're saying. So thank you, Diana, that's lovely. Wonderful. Destiny, hi, how are you doing, love? You need to unmute, hon. Need to unmute.
Sorry about that.
Hi, good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you. So nice to hear you. Just your voice alone kind of warms me up.
Aw.
Um, I'm conflicted in that right now I am healing things from the past and that I wasn't aware of. and I'm finally aware of them now. And it's a matter of coming to terms and accepting what happened or what I allowed to happen in the past so that I can move on and move forward into my now. So it's things that needed to be like things in the past that needed to be healed that I'm aware of now and trying to overcome that.
Yeah. You know, we tend to think that way. Things in the past need to be healed. Do you know that that keeps us in the past? Because if we need to heal things in the past, we're back in the past. What we need to do with those things from the past is to love and embrace them in the moment when they come up. There's nothing to fix and there's nothing that's broken, except that we think something's broken. So those things in the past need to be recognized and felt, but there's nothing to fix. They're serving a purpose. And you know what the purpose is? It was a time when you needed to be protected, when you were overwhelmed and something was too much. And so your nervous system said, save this girl, push it down. And so you pushed it down, and it's been saving you for a long time. And the access to it is to recognize, wow, my life in me wants to heal, and it's been protecting me for a long time. And if I can just pay attention to it and allow it to be there and love it for the fact that it's not something broken, it's something that's actually working really well, that's trying to protect me. But it doesn't know that it doesn't need to protect you anymore. So simply becoming aware of it. You hear in what you're saying that there's some place I need to get to that's not here. But the only place you need to get to is here.
I don't want to go there. Like when I don't want to go there. It's very painful to go there, but for some, I don't know how this is happening to me, but it's like as if I'm actually feeling it. So I don't know. I don't know how it's actually like I'm actually in it. Like I'm actually getting attacked
Yeah.
by, so I don't know if I'm picking it up from another plane of existence or how they're getting to me, but I'm actually dealing with similar beings to the ones that I've dealt with in the past that were, I had empowerment problems where I gave my power away. So I'm trying to gain my power back. And somehow,
Destiny, you need to come out down out of the head. That's all the story. And just come into the body. Take a breath with me. Feel the tension in your body. Your story is creating tension. You don't need that story. What you need to do is just notice in my body. What are you feeling in your body right now?
oh my gosh, so tired.
Feeling tired, okay?
So
Yeah.
tired.
What else are you feeling in the body?
A lot of sadness. It's
Yeah.
really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You're tired and you're sad. Yeah. Can you just love that sadness? Sadness is how we grieve what we love. It's not a problem. But to feel the sadness takes you all out of the story of being attacked and all the stories that we make up about it. You just need to feel the sadness as long as it takes. Yeah. Now show me where it is in your body.
My lower body, like my hips and legs.
Yeah. I'm the destiny in me is feeling it up here.
And there too.
Yeah. Yeah. So allow yourself just to really feel into that. And that's the access. You know, we all have a story, and we live inside of that story. We don't realize that because the story's living us. But when we begin to notice there's a narrative, there's a story that I have, and it's just that, it's a story. Look, I have a hand, right? Everybody? Do I have a hand? I'm waving my hand. Do I have a hand? Do I have a hand?
Yeah.
Right. Am I my hand?
Yes.
I'm my hand?
Well, you're not actually, well, you're part of it. It's part of you.
Yeah, but if I didn't have a hand, I'd still be me. You have a story, and your story lives you, all of us. And we until we can recognize and stand back and come into the body, into the emotions, and feel those things and love those things. You know, in the way of the mystic work, I'm always saying presencing what's really present. When we're in our story, we're not present. We're present to a story which is dictated by our past, our ancestors, our family, our culture. If we're going to deal with this separation that is going to destroy us completely if we don't acknowledge and connect with this, you know, we have to get, first of all, present. Just really be present. But for the most part, we live in the imagined future, not even the real future, it's the imagined future in the head, or the remembered past. Mostly we've taken the remembered past and we filed it, guess where? In our future. And then we live into it. So that's all coming from up here, but we need to get in the body. The body keeps the score, as Bessel van der Kolk says. The body knows what's needed. So we presence and we witness what's happening in us, and then we embrace and love that. Because every time we find a place like that, it's serving a purpose that we didn't know it was serving. There's no such thing as being dysfunctional. When we say, oh, I'm dysfunctional, we're just dealing with a function that we don't know what its purpose is. But it's almost always was to protect you at some point. So is that good for now? I love you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes, I
I
got it.
love you, Michael.
You take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay. Let's see. Natanya. Hi, Natanya. Where are you? You're
I'm in Seychelles, British Columbia.
Seychelles. I used to live in Gibson's.
How did you?
Lovely.
Hey, well, it's pouring rain here right now, blowing wind.
Well, it's 4 feet
After
of
all the
snow. 4 feet of snow here.
Oh, well, we had that. It's gone now. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I heard.
Mm, yeah.
So where's the conflict in you?
Well, I have been very upset about this whole COVID thing, and I've actually got to the stage now that I just live my life the best way I can and do everything I can do without having a jab. And I've actually decided to move. I'm going to move to Penticton. So my life is busy packing and reorganizing, and so I'm feeling fine right now.
Natanya, where is the conflict?
I don't really have a conflict.
Pardon?
I don't really have a conflict at the moment.
So, I mean, it's definitely a challenge. One of the big conflicts in the world right now is this whole COVID thing.
Yeah, well, I am so sick of it, actually. So I just try and ignore it, and told somebody to let me know when something happens that I can go back to normal. I just can't stand listening to any more bits and pieces. And I just would like to know what what we can do. I just try and stand strong, that's all, because it's really not about the COVID, it's about the power and the money of the world and so many other things that people do not even think about.
Yeah.
And I have been telling people for a long time that a certain country is going to be taking over, and people don't believe me, but it's happening.
Yeah,
And so we have to try and hold strong to our own beliefs and
yeah,
help
this is
others.
probably
Yeah.
this is probably the biggest conflict that we have is,
Yeah.
do we listen to our body, and do we pay attention to what the body says? If we're disembodied, it's hard to take a stand. But if
Yeah,
we're in a,
well, I listen to my body, and
yeah,
it tells me what to do. And that's what I'm doing, standing strong. I'm not
yeah,
listening to all this other
and
stuff that
and
people
that's where
trying
I'm
to tell
heading.
me.
Exactly, that is when you're in your body and
Yeah.
stand for your truth, but at the same time, how can, like, many of us have families that have disowned us if we don't have a shot, or the other way around, have
Yeah.
disowned us. This is a
Yeah.
huge, this is a
It's been a
huge issue.
huge thing. Luckily, my family, I have my sons, 2 sons, and their wives all agree with me.
Mhm.
And I didn't provoke them to do it or anything. They all just did it on their own. But my other family, who I have in New Zealand, all have not disowned me, but have thought that I'm very stupid and not following the rules. But
Yeah.
I thought they had disowned me, but they've actually come back because maybe they're waking up. I'm not sure. I've actually
Well,
had a few friends wake up.
the question is for all of us, I think, in this particular issue, and one of the people that I really respect a lot is Charles Eisenstein. If you have a chance to read some of Charles's essays on this subject,
No,
I think
no.
it's really important. In my last newsletter, I published one of them.
Okay.
And
So
and the, how will we be in the face of the conflict with others, though? Because people push, and we want to convince them, and it tends to create more resistance.
yeah, it
So
does. Yeah, it does in some people, and others I'm starting to realize are coming around. I'm realizing that it's not what the media is making out it to be. So there's a lot
right,
more
but
happening.
what about the people? Sorry for interrupting, but
Oh,
what
that's
about
okay.
the people who are not coming around? How can we be with them
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
way that, as I'm talking about the third side,
yeah,
balcony perspective, what I'm saying is that there's a place that we can go in any conflict and observe the whole gestalt, what's happening in the community, what's happening here, and try to view, for instance, in the COVID issue, the level of fear
yeah,
that people are in, to have compassion for the level of fear that so many people are in, or the anger and hatred, which is only tapping into something from earlier in their life.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's not even about that. I
Well,
learned
it's
a
about
long time ago. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know, I'm just sorry, but I have to say this: it's brainwashing that people have had for so many billions of years to do things, and everybody believes what their teacher said, what their God, their minister says, what their doctor says, and they're all a bunch of crap. They got to come within their body and
But
know.
Natanya, that doesn't bring you any closer to people. That creates more divisiveness. That's the only problem.
I
That's
know, but this is the
I
truth.
fully.
This is the truth. This is the truth, and people do not listen to their own bodies and their own mind. They have to believe somebody else. And so, I mean, that's why I've given up, and I'm just going to,
But
I
our
just do whatever I want.
strongly held positions do
Mm.
not open up the space for someone to even listen, because they have to resist the strongly held position.
Yeah.
This is this is a huge issue that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's
and
big.
many of us feel it. But
Yeah.
how can we do it with dignity, with compassion, and with deep listening and empathy?
Well, I've tried that. It doesn't work on them. So they're following me. I have a lot of people that follow me more than I'm more of a leader, I guess, in my group, and they're looking up to me. How come I have survived the year and a half or 2 years, done everything that I'm not supposed to do, and I'm still here and very healthy?
Yeah, but that's not, I completely am in alignment with things you're saying, but it doesn't create a space for the people who are angry and scared to do anything but defend themselves. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Well,
say, where's the third side here? So let's keep moving on. Let's talk
okay.
about this, okay? I get your position, but this is where we get a problem. Even if we're right, when we hold a position, it makes us in opposition to something.
Yep.
Doesn't create empathy, it doesn't create understanding. So I want to talk about, you know, several things here. Was there any other? Thank you, Natanya.
No,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry I get a bit bossy there. Sorry.
No, but you know, I've been an environmentalist since the 60s. I've been a very active environmentalist. I have a
Mm,
radio show that I interview people. I've
mm,
paid out of my own pocket to go to the conferences of the people all over the world in Rio and Copenhagen and Cochabamba and Paris and New York. And I backed away because I realized that I was getting angry and I was putting my anger out there towards the people that I was opposing.
yeah.
And I had to, go, wait a minute, that is not going to do anything but cause more resistance.
Yeah.
Because, what we resist causes persistence. But
Yep.
to honor the third side is to honor both points of view and the larger possibility that's available in being in that honoring inside of that third view. So, just to look at it another way, and thank you, Natanya. I just want to express that and move on here a little bit.
Thanks.
We have approximately, each of us has approximately 12 to 16,000 thoughts a day. They're mostly unconscious, and 80% of them are negative. That's everybody. I mean, that's a global statistic. 12 to 16,000 thoughts a day, 80% of them are negative. So they represent 12 to 16,000 choices we make every day. Are the choices you're making creating the kind of world that you want? And maybe yes, maybe no, but just a question to ask yourself. Are the choices I'm making, 12 to 16,000 choices a day, creating the kind of world that I want to live in? Because we find ourselves much more, sorry, people are still coming in here. We find ourselves much more focused on being right and what we're against than what we're for. I want to know what kind of world are you for? What kind of world do you get up in the morning and say, this is the world I'm going to represent today in my life? And, I'm willing then to step out of the patterns that keep me divided, both within myself and within the world. And I used to teach in the corporate world. I had the 3 R's and I added a fourth one. And the first R was responsibility. Am I able to respond? Do I have the ability to respond effectively? So when I'm looking at that, you know, can I respond, or am I reacting? So anytime there's a choice, there's a stimulus and there's a response. But there's a space in between that stimulus and response. Now that space can be very small, and then we just automatically react. The more present we become to ourselves and others, in our body, in our emotions, the larger the space is where we can shift, where we can shift our from being a reaction to actually being a conscious response. So that's an important, in order to have responsibility, we have to be able to choose in that space between the stimulus and the response. And notice how much of what we do in life is a reaction. It's not even a reaction from us, it's a reaction from our story, from our family, from our ancestors, from our culture, from our history. So one of the things to move to a third side and bring forth a world that we really want to have is to cultivate the ability to respond from a conscious place, an interconnected, interdependent place where we recognize how we're all already connected. Regardless of your beliefs, our actions are impacting our lives and the lives around us. And it goes back to the 12 to 16,000 choices we make every single day. So the ability to respond is the first of those R's. The second one is respect. Sometimes it's really hard to respect people that don't agree with you. But respect means, again, to look again newly. Can we actually cultivate not knowing? Can we cultivate uncertainty? Because we grasp for being in control. But can we actually relook at the people that we disagree with? Relook at the people, you know, I'm not saying you accept them in any way, accept their choices, but to literally relook, to bring ourselves to a new vantage point, a new perspective. And I think one of the keys, the third R in that, is reverence. That we actually regard with or treat with deep respect, regardless of who it is. You know that old saying, there but for fortune go I? You know, if you had the same history and the same ancestors and the same family and the same community, you would make the same decisions that they would make. So to have reverence for the human position, the human conflict, is one of the ways that we can then step into this third side and recognize how it's all related and how this resistance causes persistence. So I'm trying to open us up to a practice of looking more deeply, not just looking on the surface, not just expressing our strongly held beliefs, but really being open to so much open. You know, Desmond Tutu just died and has been forever one of my heroes. And he was the head of the Truth and Reconciliation in South Africa after apartheid. I can't imagine what he and other people sat through day after day after day to hear the stories of how people, you know, tortured, beat, hurt, you know, just all the things, to be able to be there and open to that and open to their humanity. And these are people who caused atrocities, you know. And that created the space for the end of apartheid to be real. Otherwise, it would have been an idea and just gone right back to what it was. In some ways, it has bounced back. So that's, you know, to have reverence, to treat with deep respect, regardless of what people are saying. And particularly when people aren't respecting your agency and your autonomy, that's all the more challenging to be able to bring that sense of self, that deep spiritual self, the divine, non-dual, divine law, spiritual law, not two, that we're not separate from anyone or anything. And our strongly held beliefs, you know, it's fine, but to examine them and still be able to understand, you know, well, why do these people have these strongly held beliefs? You know, we can call them names and say, oh, they're just, you know, unconscious sheep and all this. That doesn't do any good. So, and the fourth one that I've added particularly for this one is resonance. What's resonance? It's the ability to feel the vibration of another person or another community. So as a community, like when we come onto these calls, we represent, and in the deeper work that I do in the programs that I, you know, the group programs, we create a feel of resonance. So the community becomes a resonant body for whatever arises, so that we can find the same frequency. As long as we're not resonant, we're at a different frequency, and it causes divisiveness, it causes separation. So how can we feel into, not to accept, but feel into, you know, for instance, what Natanya was talking about, that you know, deep divide there, the people who believe, two sides that believe they're absolutely right. That's when we need the third side. That's when we need to listen in an entirely different way. So let's talk about listening. So, you know, one of the things I talk about in the courses and programs is 4 different levels of listening. Okay. The first level is the egoic or habitual way of listening. And that's like, it's a habitual listening. It's like, I'm here and you're all, you know, my projection. It's completely projected out there. It's listening from habit. It's, I don't know, how many times do you find when somebody's talking that you're actually not listening, but you're planning your rebuttal already? You know that place? No, nobody knows that place. I know that. I do that. I try not to, but I do it. So that keeps us separate when we do that. That, you know, I call that the I in me. Like you're actually just, you know, a projection of me. So that's the egoic or habitual. We respond and we see people and we listen to people out of what we already know, rather than being open to listen to anything or hear anything new. Then the second level is the factual. You know, I'm dealing with facts, the database. So I suddenly open my mind to listening to the data, you know, the what so. And that requires some suspension of our judgment and our continuous way of looking for incongruities. You know, well, wait, how does this not show up? So we're fact listing. So I look at that, the I and me, like people are on the periphery, and then there's me perceiving that. And the third level of listening is where we begin to actually connect, where we're not projecting and we're not just based on dubious facts, but we're actually looking inside and saying, wow, how does that person see this way? How can I see through the eyes of someone else? And that requires opening our heart, dropping our guard, letting it down. It now takes listening to my interiority. What am I feeling? What am I sensing? What emotions are arising in me? And that's when we go to the I in you, and the one I was talking about at the very beginning, that you show up in my nervous system and I show up in your nervous system. And when we relate at that level and we connect at that level, then I can literally feel the feelings you're feeling and where in your body you're feeling them. And I'm sure you have experiences of that momentarily, but that's available all the time to really feel the feelings that someone else is feeling. You can feel the anger, the despair. And if we go to the third side with this, then we can do something called co-regulating. So people may be, and this is the thing in the divisiveness. If we just meet the divisiveness like this all the time, we will just continue to have divisiveness. But if we can drop down and say, wow, this person is really, I don't believe what they're saying, but I can feel the fear that they're experiencing. I can feel the sense of not belonging. I can feel the sense that, they're wounded, they're hurt in some way. And that starts to shift things. So if we listen to these people in that way, then something begins to open up, and I can I don't have to agree, but I can actually see the other person's perspective. Oh, you have another perspective than I do. My friend, Mark Nepo, I love Mark's work. And he has this, he talks about, there's two tribes. There's the tribe called, you're different, go away. Then there's the other tribe, you're different, come teach me. Two different tribes. There's a lot we can learn from people who have very adverse opinions and beliefs to what we do. And you'll say, yeah, but the facts. Well, no, that's the second level of listening. I'm talking about the third level of listening, where we actually can listen from within, that we're perceiving our perception of the other. And then the fourth level of listening is listening as the field. How can I listen from the field? Like right now, we're a field. A lot of people don't have their cameras on, that's fine, but we're here from all over the planet. And there's a certain texture to that. There's a field. And when we really create a community, a common unity together, something is available to be born that was never born before. That's from the third side. That's when we hold space for something what we don't know to emerge, something miraculous, something from the unknown that becomes in the present the emergent future. That's why I say, what do you stand for, not what are you against? And to open to feeling into how does that fit in the field? How does that, this is the quality of a really extraordinary leader. They can feel into the field, into the community, into the country, into the, planet. And that is the I in now. That's the I that is fully present and willing to let go of the firmly held beliefs that cause such suffering and conflict in our own lives. I'm not saying to change your beliefs, but just to open to the field of possibility that's available when you go even beyond the empathic and listen from the field. Because what awakens in you is the divine spark, the intuition to know what there is to do next, because the future will be here in the present. It's dissolving the barrier between the observer and the observed. Rilke had a wonderful thing called in-seeing. Some of you may have heard me talk about that before. Rainer Marie Rilke, the in-seeing. And that's when you look at something so completely and fully that you become it. Whether it's a tree, a person, a community, anything. It's the essence of deep contemplation where you lose yourself in that which you're actually observing. And if we took our time to really understand the people who are oppositional to us, we would learn so much about ourselves, so much about the way we live our lives, so much about the suffering that we carry in having to be right, rather than recognizing how interconnected we already are. So those 4 levels of listening, I invite you to really look at particularly the 3rd and the 4th one, the empathic listening and the generative listening, that allows us to tap into that deep inner knowing that comes from spirit itself. So I've said a bunch of things, and before I go on, let's see if there's any questions or comments. I'm assuming that, yeah, we'll take, I can't remember how to, okay, here, do that. And Natanya, you're done with that. And there's Marie. Hi, Marie.
Hi, Mike and everyone else, Michael and everyone else. One of the questions I had was these different levels of listening, could they be developmentally progressive? Like, the earliest one maybe is the most immature, and then it's absorbed, and then people just kind of, ideally, as our consciousness evolves, that we move into that I sensing. And 2 of the things that really jumped out at me that was kind of exciting was when you were talking about the 2 tribes, and one's looking at you're different, go away, and the other one's what can you teach me? I thought of that story about, I guess it's like 6 blind people touching an elephant, and each one is feeling an elephant's side, and it's different. So that's like, creating everybody's truth or position on anything, and incorporating it in, because there's probably, if they're coming from their truth, it's truth for them. And then the other thing that came up was the symbiosis thing, where we create something that's beyond what the some parts can do alone. So I'd really love to know how to get to that last level.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to the first question you asked, the developmental question. So I actually, in a way, it is developmental, but it's developmental in the sense that our natural ability to know from the field and from empathy has been hurt. And that's usually from early adverse childhood issues in our early connection, where we weren't felt, seen, or heard. That those first 2 really relate to that we didn't develop our agency and our intuition and our becoming in a way that we were supported, held, loved, nourished, fed, seen, all of that. And so the second 2 would be our natural ability, if we really felt loved and seen and heard, which so many of us don't. So in that sense, and just to jump the 2 other parts, all there is to do is to be present. And the more precise that you can be in presencing, it's a verb, presencing, you're never going to get presence. You're going to bring yourself into a state of presence. So in order to have empathic or generative listening, you have to first be presencing yourself, being present. And then you have to presence the other. And so how do we do that? We get out of the head. And Marie, I've talked to you before about this. We get out of the head and we drop into the body. And we see what's going on in there. You know, what's happening? Because everything that's ever happened to you and to all of your ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years is in your body. It's all there. But we've relegated our lives to our heads. We've become heads on sticks. You know, we put our face on and then we meet the faces that we meet. T.S. Eliot said, you know, we meet, I forgot how he said it, but that idea of, you know, putting a face on to meet the faces that we meet. That was what he said. So, yeah, so that answers the second two parts of your question then. Dropping down, presencing, coming into our body. What am I feeling right now? What are my emotions? What is that person feeling? You know, what's going on in that person's body? Can I feel? You know, those of you who've worked with me know you're always surprised. I'm saying, yeah, you know, like earlier, yeah, it's here. You know, yeah. Where is it? Because it's just I'm just being with you to see what's present. It's not anything that anybody can't do. It's just we have to drop out of the chat room. You know, the longest distance, Anangak, uncle from Greenland, always says the longest distance is from the head to the heart. You know, the longest journey is from the head to the heart. And that's what we're talking about here. Yeah. Thanks, Marie. Yeah, beautiful. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, but yes, please, Patrice.
Hi. One of the steps that I use that's been invaluable is it a both and or an either or?
Yes, yes.
As a way into that deeper sensing, that deeper understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just to open ourselves. We so want to be in control of the future. Get everything lined up. But the future is uncertain. But think of the possibility if before we were judging someone or saying, no, not that, it's this, going to your both and, you know, going to the both and actually going, I don't have any idea. And even the ideas I have, I'm not so sure about them. You know, what if I could embrace uncertainty? Because its possibility comes from embracing uncertainty. But I want to have it all. I want to have all the ducks lined up. Oh, I got my, you know, retirement here, and I got this lined up, and you know, all this. You know, we want to try to control the future. But the future is life living through us, and the more we let life live through us, it naturally wants to heal the human condition. I often say, you know, you get a cut on your finger, and you notice it heals by itself. Now, if you try to fix it, go, oh, that's a nasty cut. I got to get, oh, look at that scab on there. I need to fix that. This is not good. And pretty soon you wonder why your finger's turning green. You got gangrene and your finger falls off. But if you just left it, it heals naturally. Everything in life is programmed to heal. It's how nature works, of which we're part. Thank you, Patricia. Anything else? Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Any other comments anyone wants to make? Jump in here. Feel free. So, what are the blocks for generative listening or empathic listening for that matter? The voice of judgment. You know that voice? Noticing how that voice suppresses us, how it closes our mind and shuts us down. You can't do that. You don't have a PhD. Or you can't start that business. You can't write that book. Who are you to think you can write that book? Blah, 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 blah. The voice of judgment. What do you think the antidote is to the voice of judgment? Anybody got an idea? Diana? You're muted.
Open heart, open mind.
Yep, open heart, open mind. Another way to say that is curiosity. Being curious, bringing a sense of wonder and awe to life. That's an open heart. Yeah, open mind. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Diana. Yeah. So the voice of judgment. Now, I can hear some people saying, yeah, I need to stop judging. Good luck. Good luck with that. We're judgment making machines. But what if you actually began to notice, oh, I'm judging. Not to do anything with it. Oh, I just made a judgment about that person. Just to notice that will allow you to begin to slow that down and open up new possibilities. Okay, second thing that's a block to that kind of generative or empathic listening is cynicism or resignation. Resignation is a way of emotionally distancing. It's closing our heart. So open mind, open heart, right? Well, the antidote to cynicism and resignation is cultivating compassion. Now, who's the first person you need to cultivate compassion for? Exactly. For yourself. That's where it starts. And much of our challenging of other people is directly proportional to our resignation and our own shutting down. So self-compassion. How can I cultivate? What are some ways that I can cultivate compassion? Well, start writing down in your journal things you're grateful for or things you accomplished. I have a long to-do list every day, and I never finish it. I don't think I've ever finished my to-do list. And I probably won't. I'll probably be 100 and still have a long to-do list. But I've learned to acknowledge what I did accomplish and put my attention on that rather than the 3 other things that I didn't get to. Now, where do you usually focus? On the 3 things you didn't get to. How could you not get that? You could have, you shouldn't have gone out for that run. You shouldn't have, all this stuff we tell ourselves. Anybody got any other ways? How can we develop self-compassion? What are some ways we can do that? Spending time in nature? Doing yoga? Anybody else? How about giving yourself a big hug once in a while? I don't know how many of you know um, my good friend, whose name is going out of my mind right now, Heather Ash Amara, wrote, I don't know, anybody know Heather Ash's work? It's wonderful work. The woman goddess work. Yeah, so Ash is a great friend of mine. And whenever she has one of those, she says, "Oh, sweetheart, it's okay. You know, I love you, sweetheart." And it's so great. And I have another friend who has negative thoughts, an ex-girlfriend, and she says, she has a negative thought, and she says, "Now that's a thought that's not going to happen." So we can manage this chatter that's going on, but you really have to practice presencing, bringing yourself in, witnessing, embracing. That's the essence of the Way of the Mystic course that I do. I don't have one scheduled through Well of Light, but there is one I'm doing at Selkirk College. So it's an online one if anyone wants to do that. And just to put a plug in, there's also, I have this advanced course that people don't leave it. So it's in its finishing its third 6 months, and none of the people will leave. It's a 6-month program. So I am doing one called Surfing the Waves of Trauma, which will be just a 7-week commitment to get a taste of what we do in the 6-month program. And it's really fun, and it's very powerful to be in a group to grow like that. And in the advanced course, nobody wants to leave. So we're going to do a short version of it for people who want to get a taste of that. And that'll come up, I think, January 26th, if you're interested. So anyway, I was talking about the 3 key barriers that I feel about that keep us from generative and empathic listening. And the third one is just the voice of fear. And that's perhaps the biggest one, that it prevents us from letting go of who we think we are, what we have. It's really very often related to doing trauma work. And when I talk about trauma work, I'm just talking about frozen past. There's the big T that was, the big events, molested, raped, beaten, who knows, tragedies that happen. But the little T is just as impactful, that I didn't get the nourishing I need, that I didn't get this to be seen, that I didn't feel heard or felt as a child. And that's trauma. And it's frozen past, and it separates us. And it's, I think when I first heard Thomas Hübl talk about trauma 4 or 5 years ago, and I've been studying with him and continue to work with him, he said, "We're swimming in a sea of trauma," and I went, "Oh my God, that is the linchpin. If we could just figure out how to actually address that." So there's personal trauma, that's the, adverse childhood trauma. But there's also familial trauma. There's ancestral trauma that's been handed down from war to war to war, from, beatings to beatings to beatings, to just the pain that's been happening. Then there's cultural and ancestral trauma together, like slavery, colonialism, dropping atomic bombs on people, genocide. Here in Canada, the native schools, there's all of this has to be reconciled. That's all trauma that separates us. And that's the first issue of trauma, is that it separates us. And so when we see these people and we get really angry because they have a different point of view, or a different way of looking at the world than we do. Just, go deeper, empathic listening, and field listening, and recognize, oh wow, that person grew up in a Native American community. That person grew up in a Black or people of color community. Or this person had all of their family was in the war, and their grandfather and their father before them, they were all had PTSD. We didn't know what it was back then. It was, my parents were both at Pearl Harbor. It was called shell shock then, but it's been handed down from generation to generation. And so if we want to really get to this place of being able to stand in the third side, to be on the balcony looking down, we have to take all these things into consideration and create observation. So how do we deepen our ability to do these things, to deepen our ability to know each other as brothers and sisters, as interdependently connected, and that everything we do it is co-arising with everything that everyone else is doing. So observation, presencing is observe, observe, observe. Keep looking deeper, 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 connecting with the places that have the greatest potential. To retreat and reflect, to go back, whoa, anytime I'm getting triggered or upset, or I'm having a hard day or a hard time, that's gold. Like, I had a really hard time. What does that mean? I had a really hard time. When I go underneath there, I went, oh, some traumatic place in me got touched, and it was difficult. It was hard. So then I get to work with that part in me that got triggered. This is really important in relationships, Unless you want to have a relationship where you keep having the same fight over and over and over again. It would be good to notice that underneath that is trauma. So we retreat, we reflect, and we allow our inner knowing to emerge, to express itself through us. And then we act from that as a prototype, as, whatever's emerging now, when we want to have it all like in control. But the juiciness of being human is not knowing, and the emergence that comes from being really present. We think that change comes from doing something, or that change comes from being what we're not. Change never comes from being what we're not. Change comes from being precisely exactly what you are in that moment. And that creates the conditions for real change to happen. That's the Gestalt paradoxical theory of change, is what that is. And it is so true, in all the years I've worked in corporations and worked with governments and all the places that I've worked, that change comes really from getting really clear about what's happening in me, what's happening in you, what's happening in us, what's happening in the system, to be really present. And then, like Otto Scharmer, Theory U talks about, how the future, emergent future, is always in the present. It's never somewhere out there to get to. The emergent future is always in the present. The more present we have, the more connected we are to the future, because it's happening in the present. And we don't have time to get into time-space continuum, so I'll leave that discussion for some other time. Hi, Kathleen. I love your setting there. It's so beautiful. Yeah, and your smile. Thank you. So let's just close with a little prayer. And I just want to thank you all for your time. I don't take it lightly when people join these things that I do. You're always welcome to do. I do at least one or two, either master classes or full moon or new moon or whatever every month, just to be in connection with people. So if you liked it, share it with other people. I'll send people a recording. Whoever signed up gets a recording of what we were talking about. But share it with other people and come join us at the Well of Light. And if you don't get the newsletter, you might like to get that because there's some juicy stuff usually in there. So yeah. So let's just honor the fact that we've come together in this configuration, that there will never be another configuration like this 40 so people that have come together. And that even if you got one little thing out of this, I invite you to turn it into a practice, whatever that is, and to be kind to yourself and compassionate towards yourself, and be that way to other people who don't agree with you. Try to understand the deeper relationship. And I guess the other thing is really to focus on what we want. It's so easy to focus on what we don't want. So I invite you all to take the time to sit back and really look in my heart of hearts, in my highest calling. What's the world that I want to create? Not out there, but in the way I live my life. It all starts inside. So we thank Spirit for this time together. We thank our guides. We thank all our relations. And thank you for being committed to having a world that works for all life, with no one and nothing left out. And be in touch. I love hearing from you. I get a bazillion emails, but I love reading them and hearing what's alive in you and what's working. So please stay in touch. And if you want to surf with me, the end of the month, we'll start surfing trauma. So that'll be a really fun thing that we'll start this month. And much love and many blessings. Thank you all. If you want to unmute and say goodbye.
Thank you.
Somebody asked me, please let me know of the courses you'll be starting. I want to join. Oh, lovely. Okay. Yeah. Well, they're all in the newsletter. I hope you all get the newsletter. And they're all on the homepage of the Well of Light. Just look at the Well of Light. And also some really cool radio shows. If you go to the bottom and listen to We Earth Radio, this week I had Karen O'Brien on. I think I mentioned her, an amazing climate scientist who says the biggest issue with climate is not about the technology, it's not about the government, it's about our relationships with each other. And that's really what we've been saying all night long. So
When you care about the trees, you don't burn them down.
that's right. Everybody unmute and say goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Michael. For
Michael.
in this community.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
I
you.
love you all. Thank you so much.
Mwah.
Bye.